Right, hello everyone. So today we're going to dive into an incredibly ridiculous and concerning blog post that's been around since 2014. A blog post called Women's Ovaries Don't Agree with Feminism by, you guessed it, Biblical Gender Roles. The pitch is simply unhinged. That feminism is at war with women's biology because fertility peaks young. So apparently the answer is to push young girls, 15, 16, into marriage and to have as many babies as possible. Because apparently ovaries are the ultimate life coach and everything else is secondary. They open by quoting an old Washington Post piece. The biological reality that female fertility peaks in the teens and early 20s can be difficult for many American women to swallow. While we may not be mature enough to conceive at a young age, nor should we, that is still when the body is most adept at conception and carrying a baby. Society has changed, but the ovaries will take another million years or two to catch up to that. The blog nods along and decides that society is the real problem, not just ovaries. Translation is women delaying marriage and babies for a career, an education, just any other life is just full-blown arrogance to God. Fertility does peak younger. That's science. Risks of miscarriages, gestational diabetes, chromosomal issues, they do climb after 35. No serious person denies this. But treating ovaries like the CEO of a woman's entire life is just ridiculous. We've invented things like egg freezing, this better prenatal care, actual medicine. The idea that the only logical response is to hurry young teenagers into early marriage and childbirth is just nonsense. Real data from the CDC and WHO shows teenage pregnancy still carries higher rates of preterm birth, low birth weight, and long-term disadvantages for both mother and child. In countries with good healthcare, healthy outcomes cluster more comfortably in mid-20s to early 30s, when people are more stable. The blog's earlier the better vibe conveniently forgets the parts where pre-modern mortality was horrifying. Oh, and this maturity argument. They quote Dennis Prager and they paint this very rosy picture of the past. Marriage breeds maturity, and after marriage, having children breeds even more maturity. In pre-modern times, girls were excited about when they would be able to marry and have children, usually around 13 or 14. And then they dropped the classic, God designed a woman's body to be bearing children at a young age. Mary probably had him at about age 14. The author even casually mentions he'd consider his own daughter marrying at 15 or 16 to a mid-20s man if the guy has a job, a house, and church approval. I'm sorry, what? This is where the blog shifts to genuinely concerning. Brain development, that whole prefrontal cortex, whatever the fuck, it keeps going until mid-20s, but most likely keeps going until you're much older. A 15-year-old is still figuring out who they are. Pairing a 15-year-old with a man in his mid-20s who already has power, money, life experience, it isn't maturity breeding. It's a heavy and dangerous structural imbalance. Historical young marriages existed because life expectancy was short as fuck. Their options were practically zero, and the maternal death rates were absolutely brutal. Romanticizing these children excited about periods and marriage and childbearing, while ignoring the lack of choice and the medical nightmare, it's peak, we'll call it selective nostalgia. Modern data and early marriage consistently shows higher divorce rates, economic instability, and elevated risks of regret. We've raised the age of consent and marriage protections for a reason, and that reason is not feminism ruined ovaries. All of this builds into their core claim, and it's just pure reductionism. Get a load of this. A woman's most important function was as a wife and mother. Her abilities in other areas must always take a back seat to her primary biological function of motherhood. They then blame falling fertility rates mostly on feminism. We're not having enough children because women are delaying. Modern feminism and women's rights are the true source. They even then float the idea that daughters shouldn't worry about providing for themselves. That's the husband's job. Just remember, girls, they want to keep you useless, uneducated, broke. You can stay at home with nowhere else to go. Just a baby factory. That's your only purpose. You're a baby factory. Motherhood can be great, as many women want it. But declaring it the primary function and everything else secondary, it reduces women to reproductive roles in the most limiting way possible. Female education correlates with lower child mortality, better health outcomes, and stronger economies. Who would have thought? And fertility rates are falling for so many different reasons. Housing costs, the cost of everything, and career demands on top of that, because you need to work a lot to be able to afford everything. How can you afford children on top of it? Fuck knows. There's also just later marriages and childbearing by choice. I know, that's insane. A woman choosing to do it later in life. Wow. Countries with strong parental leave and childcare support often do better on fertility than places stuck in rigid traditional roles. Blaming feminism or women's rights as the main villain here is lazy, also ignores half the bloody picture. So let's end this. The blog raises a real observation. Fertility has a peak, and delayed childbearing has trade-offs. But the leap to therefore you must marry off your 15-year-old daughter as soon as possible and any other dream in life is irrelevant. It's so wildly out of proportion that it's almost comedic. But it's not comedic because these are actual lives. These are children's lives. It's concerning because it treats young girls as these reproductive projects rather than just developing humans. There are better solutions out there. Affordable childcare. It's a good start. Proper maternal leave. Housing that doesn't bankrupt people. But also valuing both parents as full partners. Empowered women who choose motherhood when they're ready create stronger families. Biology informs. It doesn't get to dictate the entire script of a girl's life at 15. Anyway, what did you make of this entire teen marriage showbuckle. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like if you want, subscribe if you want, share the video, and yeah, thank you again. I will see you in the next one. Ta-da!